Okay. Oh, Rom's in here. I don't know what that's about. Not going to admit anybody but you. I must be the host because I'm getting admits. Okay, multiple can share. So go ahead and get in there. View. Yeah, you're in here. I'll let you in. Okay, you're in. Okay, now, now you should be able to share because I gave you the multiple can share. So what you need to do, Yasmin, is up on the top.
Share the screen.
Up on the top, under the dots there on the right, there's a setting and it says share computer audio or something like that.
Sure.
Do you see it up on the right there? It's under options there. It should say right up on the top, under options, it should say share computer audio or something like that.
So, okay, this is start video. View.
Well, you know what? Share your screen first. Try that. Share your screen first.
Yes, okay.
And then
know
maybe that setting will come up.
Or music or computers on. No. It says basic screen, calendar. Okay, this one.
It says share computer audio.
Cool.
All right. So share your screen and try playing the audio, play the video so I can see if I can hear it. I can't hear it.
Okay.
So there should be a setting right up on the top where it says view options there.
You cannot see it either?
I can see the video, I can't hear it.
Okay, give me a second.
Okay.
Okay, because I am mute.
Okay, try it.
Can you see it?
I can see it, but I can't hear it. So check your audio settings and make sure your audio on your computer is all the way up.
Okay. No.
Okay, no, I still can't hear it. Oh, man.
Waste collection or drop off site.
Beautiful. Now make sure it's cranked all the way up so people can hear it. That's great. Good job.
Okay.
I can hear it now. Okay, so I'm going to, now we're going to stop share. You go ahead, stop screen sharing. Whoop.
I'm going.
I can hear you, Yasmin.
I know.
So stop the screen share.
Okay. Hold on. Maybe.
Up on the top where it says, you know, stop screen share, so we can get back to the main screen here. I don't know what this is. This is your screen. There you go, girlfriend. Good job. Good job.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go on mute and kill my camera until I see one of the chairs.
Is it still sharing?
It was. It's not now. I see you just fine now.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So maybe I should stop video on mute.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to go dark. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay.
Hey, Matt, if you're there.
I am. Tina, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Bad at all, thanks.
Good. Hey, I don't know if Mike told you, I asked him to, I'm sure in the big scheme of things, this is a minor thing, but Carla has an exam today.
Okay.
Hi, Rob.
Hello.
Carla has an exam, so she won't be here, but I would imagine she'll be back going forward.
In fact, I spoke to Carla. She really wants to stay involved with the committee, but academics have interfered. She had class, I think, for the better part of the semester on Thursdays during the time we meet. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, just so you know, and also there was that letter that I forwarded around. I don't know if you're gonna, the Federation of Monroe County Environmentalists.
Yeah, I thought at the end, we don't have anything for public forum once more. I'll just mention that. And I think we can append that to the minutes for this meeting.
Got
We
it.
really have no action, Tina. Basically, they want to meet with the county executive, which is fine. And if the county executive decides to meet with them, maybe we could be there too.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out. But yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I just wanted to make sure, because I found that in the folder today and I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure
Yeah.
this is followed up on. Oops. That's on me. I hit mute. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I'm trying to admit people and I
Okay, and
hit
then you
your
muted
mute.
me.
I'm
Now,
sorry.
with the high winds around here, we've had some issues with our internet. So if I drop off, I'll drop back on again as soon as I can.
Okay,
I don't know if you've lost internet where you are, but we've got lots of trees and lots of cables around here.
no, I just have bad internet to begin with out here in
Okay,
the
there you go.
backwoods of Wheeling.
No
Yeah.
excuses. Okay. I see Michael there, Susan, Yasmin, hi there. Okay.
Hey, Rob.
How are you?
Nice to see you. It's been a while.
Hi, Ram. It's been a long time since I
Oh.
saw you.
Oh,
How are
yes. Well, I'm doing well. I'm enjoying all my green work here at Sustainability and Climate Change at Larson.
Terrific. There's Clem.
Hi, everyone.
Hi there, Kimberly.
How are you doing?
We're well, we're hanging in there. How about you?
Good, no complaints.
Not that they do any good anyway, right?
Right, there you go.
Matt, you back to biking?
Not yet, although I did clean up my bike and I oiled the chain. I'm ready to go.
Nice.
Just Mother Nature isn't ready for me though.
Yeah, it's surprisingly cool for
I
me.
know, May 6th, I was hoping for warmer weather. But I'll get out there probably next week regardless of Mother Nature. I'm anxious to get up and down the canal again. How about you? Have you been out?
I've been out every single day for the
Oh,
last
you're a trooper.
170 days. I don't know. I'm like on a record. Yeah.
Well, we were treated some fabulous weather in April, so that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Seem to be paying our dues now in May. Right. I see a familiar face there.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
How's it?
So,
There we go.
so Carla is absent. John Matello, Kate is here.
Mhm.
Liam, Sue?
I don't see him.
Who would know?
He's He's
Wait
at
a minute, there
college.
he is.
There he is.
Okay.
All right, I think I just saw him. Okay.
And Joe is the only other person. I don't know if Joe's here or not, but
Mhm.
Joe is the other person we're waiting for.
Okay, so we know Carla is taking an exam this afternoon, right?
Right.
Okay. Terrific.
John is here.
Okay,
That's good. So everyone is here except Joe Van Kerkhove.
all right. Should we give Joe a minute? Oh, I heard a bell.
Let's
Is
see.
that him?
No.
No.
Getting there.
All right.
Joe said he'll be on here shortly. He's having a computer problem.
Oh, okay. Technology is the great enabler and disabler at the same time, right?
Right. So yeah, I think we proceed without him, at least for
All
now.
right, yeah, why don't we go ahead and get started? Good thought, Mike. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our 10th meeting, actually our 10th Zoom meeting. I'm wondering if one of these months we'll actually be able to meet in person for a change. I think this format has worked decently for us and we've certainly made the best of it. So our agenda this afternoon includes first a legislative update. We'll talk a bit about the path forward for CPACE. We'll have a climate action plan update from our staff at DES and our colleagues at Bergman Associates. So welcome back, Kimberly and your team. I'll ask you to introduce them a little later on. And finally, we actually have a treat today. Committee member Kate Walker is going to brief us on the New York State Center for Sustainable Materials Management, which is an exciting new endeavor for her. So moving right along, knowing Joe will catch up with us, why don't we go ahead with my thanks to Tina for capturing so much detail in the draft minutes with the minutes approval of April 1st. Are there any potential revisions to the minutes as submitted? Hearing none, then may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and second. All in favor, thumbs up or aye? Okay, I think the thumbs up have it. Good, good, good. Excellent. Let me next introduce Michael Udelson and our county legislative team. We'll step through the legislative update and Mike Garland will have something to say about our path forward with CPACE. Michael, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I did want to just touch base on one other subject and update that just doesn't really fit anywhere on the agenda, but I just wanted to recognize the Rochester Youth Climate Leaders who held a summit a couple of weeks ago and invited us to participate and present a little bit about what we've been doing, and Matt and myself and Mike and Clem kind of all teamed up and gave an overview. I was able to watch some of the other sessions. It was really very interesting, and I was glad to participate. So I just wanted to give them a shout out for a job well done. On the legislature follow up to the CPACE, I think as Matt touched on, we can really kind of combine our legislative update because that's our main thing with Matt, or excuse me, with Mike talking about that. And the bottom line with the CPACE is that it is going to move forward. You read the update that there was, it did not move forward, but rather was referred back to the committee at the last legislature committee meeting. But I appreciate that Legislator Ansello and Legislator Boyce got involved afterwards too to try and clarify the process and the next steps forward. And we're actually waiting for an update right now as the agenda is set for next week on next steps forward. But in your packet that you got was a draft letter from this committee, basically doing what we did before, submitting this back. And I'm going to let Mike Garland speak a little bit about that.
Okay, thank you, Legislator Udelson. I appreciate that. And I know Legislator Fred Ansello obviously was at the meeting as well too. So I defer to Legislator Ansello if there's anything he would like to share as it relates to the meeting itself. What I would suggest, and we shared a letter at our last meeting or excuse me, prior to this meeting, I should say, and I will share my screen here momentarily. And let's see if I get it right here. Give me 1 second. Let me get it over into my screen. Okay, so as many of you may know, it was the Open Sea Pace legislation, both an agreement, signing an agreement, authorizing an agreement with the Energy Improvement Corporation, as well as passing a local law to allow Open Sea Pace in Monroe County outside the city limits, because as you may know, the city has adopted Open Sea Pace as well too. There were a lot of questions at committees, and there were some follow-up questions as well too that we're preparing a response for right now to be considered, we understand, at the May 11th meeting. Again, it wouldn't be adopted that night, even if it were considered. What would happen at that meeting, a public hearing would be set for June, and action would then occur in June. That's how local laws are passed in the legislature. It's a 3-cycle process. So President Joe Carbone did, at the committee meeting, did refer the Open Sea Pace referral back to the Climate Action Plan Advisory Committee, even though we had submitted a letter back, I believe in October. You might recall a similar letter, recommending Open Sea Pace be considered by the legislature. It was responded to by President Carbone that the preference would be that they wait until they consider it as part of the overall climate action plan, presumably after as part of phase 1, governmental operations. There was a subsequent letter that I know that was submitted outside the committee that was more of a legislative letter from Legislator Udelson with others copied in, going to the administration. Short story shorter was that the President Carbone did refer this at committees a week ago Tuesday. So I thought it would be prudent, since we had this meeting scheduled, that we authorize a letter just resubmitting this. I just don't want to miss an opportunity. I want to make sure our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted, because President Carbone did request a referral back to the committee. I thought it'd be prudent on our part to submit this. Now, there might be some information that I'm not aware of from the legislature president's office. Perhaps this letter is not necessary, but I thought it would be prudent for the clerk of the legislature to at least have it, that we heard what the president said and we responded accordingly. So I think you all have a copy of the letter. It's basically in sub and substance the same letter that we had submitted before. It's just acknowledging the May 6th meeting, excuse me, not the May 6th, but the request from President Carbone.
Just to make sure I heard you correctly, you said the expectation then would be in May, at the May legislature meeting, they would set a public hearing date for the June meeting?
That's correct. It was introduced in April, discussed at the committees in whatever the date was, I think the last week of April. It may be, because I can't say for sure, because again, it was referred back to the advisory committee. And as Legislator Udelson said, we don't have the agenda yet to know if it will be on the May 11th agenda. Presumably it will. But what would normally take place then is a public hearing would be set and an action would occur in June.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Legislator Ansello. So this might be a little redundant, it might be a little belts and suspenders, but I wanted to be respectful of what President Carbone requested, and I didn't want to assume that our letter from October was what he was looking for. I thought it would be,
That's a good idea.
worthwhile for us to consider. Go ahead.
That's a good idea. It won't hurt. And
Okay.
hopefully we'll know before our meeting's over we'll know for sure that it'll be on the agenda on the 11th of May. They're
Okay,
going to be
great.
texting us. Hopefully.
Excellent. Okay.
Good deal. Excellent.
And just to echo what both Legislator Ansello and Mike Garland said, if we get this back on the agenda for May 11th, then we haven't really lost a beat. That would have been the normal cycle, because as Mike said, it's a kind of a 3-meeting process. And I think as far as basically resubmitting this, authorizing us to resubmit it. It can't hurt. It hopefully, and maybe likely isn't necessary, but we just don't want to leave any stone unturned. And, again, Legislator Ansel has been very helpful trying to get this straightened out and move it along with my contact with the administration as well, and Carla Boyce is at the same time. So we're feeling, confident that'll go forward. But as Fred just mentioned, they're actually having an agenda setting meeting, I think kind of concurrent with our meeting, and they promised that they would text us as soon as they have some final determination.
Yep, that's correct, Michael.
Okay, great.
My understanding.
Michael, just a quick question. With this letter now dated May 6th, do we need to reauthorize our already unanimous approval to move forward?
I think.
Or can we
Fred
just
told me-
transfer the October one to May 6th?
Kind of going along with what Mike said about, just making sure we cover all bases. I think it couldn't hurt. I don't imagine a scenario where somebody would say we didn't authorize this resubmission. So, but still, I think it would make sense. And, just with the clarification that it is a resubmission, because we don't want to minimize the action the committee already took. But I think a motion to that effect would probably be advisable.
All right, Michael, you made the original motion. I offered up the second. Sue actually made the suggestion that we do this in October, but we want to just reiterate our steps and we can have another vote, which I'm sure will be unanimous, and we'll move forward. How's that?
Okay, and I apologize. Am I sharing my the letter, or am I sharing the my?
You're sharing the agenda or the top of the.
The top of the letter, yeah.
Okay, good. Everyone can see it. Okay, good. I've still evolved.
see the
I'm
date,
still a
Mike.
Zoom dunce.
We can see the date. At least that's where,
How's that? Is that better?
let's see.
Now, we're still seeing the letter, Mike.
No, but it was attached earlier. I
Yeah.
will-
Okay, that's fine. I'll
The
stop
letter
sharing.
looks the
Okay.
same as the October one, I think.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay. All right, good.
There you go.
All right, good.
So
deal.
I think maybe just be maybe appropriate if someone other than, the legislators involved made a motion to resubmit it. I
Sure,
think
I'll
that would
make a
be-
motion to resubmit.
All right, and I'll second the motion. And I guess all in favor, aye or thumbs up? Okay, I think the ayes and thumbs up have it, unanimous. So I think we've covered all the bases. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're ready to move forward and resubmit. Okay, terrific, terrific, excellent. Any other comments, thoughts? All right, good deal. The next up on the agenda is a climate action plan update and a discussion of the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. I think Joe finally logged on, right? Did he make it? Joe, are you out there? Okay. I know Kimberly's on, right?
I'm here.
Okay, good deal. Kimberly, would you be kind just to introduce your associates from Bergman?
Sure. So we've got a few folks, few different team members on. We've got Jamie. She was on my screen. Oh, there she is still. So Jamie Toman from Bergman and Kieran Playford from Bergman. And then we have, and I keep losing everyone on my screen, Rob from Michael Baker, who I think you met back in the fall when we briefly chatted with you about scope. And then Ram from Larson Engineering is also on the call as well.
Terrific. Thank you. I see Joe V is with us too. Wonderful. All right, go ahead and take away. The presentation.
so-
All yours. Thanks.
I know we did meet with you back and it's hard to believe it's been the fall already and that much time has gone by, but to review the scope, and I know Joe and Mike have been doing a good job at providing updates on status over the last few months, but we thought we would maybe officially kick off the project today now that we're well underway and getting into the weeds a little bit more. So I'm going to share my screen and hope everything works and just walk through a quick 10-minute presentation, high-level overview, and then we can answer any questions that you might have. So just going to quickly talk to you about our team and the roles overall project purpose, touch on the climate goals, which you mentioned, Matt, and then really spend the bulk of our time just talking about our process in more detail and what you can expect in the months to come and what we're thinking from a project schedule at this point. So mentioned, a few of us are here. So as you know, Bergman is responsible for overall project management, really pulling all of the document together. Michael Baker is really a large component of the work, and you'll hear from Rob in just a couple of minutes, but they are preparing the GHG emissions inventory, assessment, forecasting. So they have a pretty important role on the data analysis side of things. Larson will be working closely with us as we move into identifying strategies and actions that the county can undertake to reduce GHG emissions. That's where their role will really come in. And then we also have Sustainable Planning Design, which is a WBE firm that we work with quite frequently. And they'll have a small role related to quality review and control, getting an outside set of eyes on things, and then also preparing an executive summary for the county to use when discussing the climate action plan. So in addition, obviously working closely with the county, but we have developed and created an internal work group. And I think Joe and Mike may have talked to you about that at past meetings, and then obviously your important role in the phase 1 project as well. So the internal working group is really charged with helping us gather information. We met with them earlier this week and gave them a whole slew of different tasks to try and track down data that we can then input to produce the greenhouse gas emission inventory. As we move forward and get into policies and actions and identify activities, the internal working group will also have the opportunity to review and provide comment on those. And then I'm sure you're all well versed in your role in this process, but again, as we move forward, really thinking with creatively with us and helping us to refine practices and policies that will help the county move forward with achieving its goals. So project purpose, so just, kind of, again, recapping, the climate action plan is really focused on greenhouse gas emissions. Phase 1 is explicitly focused on government operations. So how we're defining that is sites and facilities that Monroe County owns, or those sites and facilities that the county has the authority to introduce and implement proposed changes. So places where they can influence opportunities and implement activities that could reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Another important purpose of doing the climate action plan and the government operations piece first is really, the county then influencing a broader perspective of communities and really being a leader in taking proactive steps to address climate change. So that will be really important as we do move into phase 2, which is the broader picture. One of the things we have not fully, and we've talked about at a high level internally and with folks from the county, but drafting the purpose statement, which will really set out the goals for greenhouse gas emissions reductions. And this is essentially a placeholder as we continue to have those discussions and define what those goals are going to be, and whether there's multiple goals like stepping stones, like defining 2035 and 2050 as 2 separate targets, or are we just targeting 2050? Those are discussions that will be ongoing. We will be using 2019 as a baseline for any future reductions, and that will come into play in consideration as we talk about the New York State Climate Leadership Community Protection Act goals, which have been referenced multiple times as really the target for what we want to achieve, but recognizing the baseline years between where we're starting with 2019 and where the goals within the New York State Community Protection Act are set are obviously pre-2019. So there might be some adjustments that we ultimately make, but this is a conversation that we'll continue to have with the county as we move forward. And so those goals on your screen are from the actual New York State goals. So by 2040, achieving 100% zero emission electricity, and by 2050, reducing emissions at least 85%. But again, their baseline was 1990 levels, as opposed to where we're starting at 2019 levels. So from an overview of process and outcomes, so I actually realized as I was looking at this list, data collection really should have been at the top of this, and actually where we are in the process, right at the top of this list. But the primary tasks are really collect the data to inform the GHG baseline inventory, select our reduction goals, and then ultimately everything we do from there is going to be what activities can we undertake from a county government operations level to achieve those goals for greenhouse gas reduction. So we'll be developing a series of recommended actions. We'll be looking at case studies and best management practices and sharing those with this group as we move forward and start to look at the impacts of different actions on achieving those goals. And then that will come into play when we prioritize actions. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. We also recognize and are looking at and want to celebrate all of the work that the county has already done and everything it has already achieved. Certainly, your green building policy, the number of LEED certified buildings that you have, the number of vehicles that are alternative fuel, all of the work you're doing associated with the eco park and recycling and education and awareness. So all of those different efforts that have really occurred over the past 20 years or so, 15 to 20 years, we are documenting, compiling, summarizing as part of the plan. So recognizing all of the efforts that have already been undertaken. And then we get into the heavy lift, the greenhouse gas inventory. And so here I'm going to hand it over to Rob for a few minutes. This is kind of where we are in the process today. And I'm going to let him walk you through in a little more detail what this process entails.
All right. Thank you, Kim. And I'll just have you advance through the slides. Not that there's that many. The approach that we're using is actually equivalent to what Rochester did with their plan, in that they use the protocols that were developed by the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, which is more broadly just referred to as ICLEI. So if I say that, at least you'll know what it stands for. They have a set of protocols that started off internationally and were adjusted for the United States. And it's sort of the common platform or the way that greenhouse gas inventories are calculated for government agencies and at the local level, again, as it's being put forward by the county and or greater government agency. We're diverging a little bit from what's been done in the past, in that since the Monroe County plan was done, ICLEI has released a new online tool called ClearPath. It's basically a computerized online version of the protocols that they had been using previously. What that means is that our work will continue to be consistent with what's out there already, so that when you're looking at our plan compared to other plans in the state and other plans nationally that use this tool, it'll be an apples to apples comparison. We ideally would like to use 2020 as a baseline, but given what happened in 2020, we've gone back a year, and we're going to use 2019 as our last year of complete and reasonable data. There would be no point in using 2020 as a baseline, as I'm sure everyone can imagine. And we have sent out a data request. At our meeting on Monday, we sat down with the committee, and we provided a data request to everyone. We are the broad categories, and again, this aligns with the protocol, are listed there on the slides. I won't repeat them. The only thing that is in the protocol that we're not doing is water treatment, and it's just because that falls outside of the county, the way that the protocol defines that. And Kim, if you can just move to the next slide. This is a typical, Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in. That's water supply, you mean, because we do have wastewater treatment. You meant water supply?
Yes, I did. Okay. And this is just a typical spreadsheet that's provided by ICLEI in order for us to record data. Obviously, this was kind of confusing or is kind of extensive. So we have provided all of the individual departments with a detailed description of all the entries we need. And of course, we're making ourselves available to anyone who has any questions or needs any clarifications on the data that we're requiring. So yeah, that's where we are in the process right now. We had our meeting on Monday, and we set an initial deadline for May 21st, I believe, to get our first round of data in. We're not kidding ourselves. We know that some of this data may be difficult to get, so we will be available to help provide replacement data or calculated values or national values as is appropriate for all of these. And we know that on the 21st is probably our first go around, so we will be doing some QA/QC checking of the data and entering it into the ClearPath tool and seeing what our initial results are and make sure that we're getting reasonable results out of that.
Great, thanks, Rob. And then just quickly wrapping up. So the next phase, right, once we have an understanding of where we are, where we want to go, it's understanding, what are some of the actions and strategies that we can undertake and help us achieve those goals. So, as we start to identify strategies, whether it's, converting to high efficiency water faucets and faucets in every bathroom in every county building, or reducing the amount of water that you're using in landscaping, or upgrading all lighting throughout the county to LED, right? There's a range of different types of actions and strategies that we'll be looking at, and we'll kind of vet them through a series of questions. What actions can the county reasonably implement? What is the reduction potential and the impact of those activities? Some will have more of an impact than others, and we recognize that. So using that as part of the evaluation. And then also thinking about phasing. And the phasing plan is, really in the prioritization is essentially the county's action plan, right? It's how you're moving forward with activities, how you're prioritizing funding. So as we think about prioritizing actions, we will look at, the costs for implementation. What are the funding options to implement those types of projects? Again, what's the return on that investment that you're getting towards achieving those reduction goals? And then we'll really outline, some of the different details associated with that. Who's responsible for implementing this within the county? What are some maybe outside partnerships or collaborations that the county could be thinking about in order to advance those goals? And making sure that we're also recognizing and, identifying for you any challenges or barriers that you might encounter. And then also want to make sure that we're giving you a tool to help monitor outcomes as well, so you can be tracking your success moving forward. So what is our schedule to wrap this up? I know we've been, as I said early on, right, I feel like we've been talking about this a long time, and now we've hit the start line. So we are anticipating with back and forth, having the baseline inventory completed no later than July. We'd really like to, have further discussions with the county and talk about the reduction goals and have those in place within the next month or so. We are already starting and looking at case studies and best management practices, and we'll be continuing to compile those over the next couple of months. But really by the summer and into early fall is when we'll start to look at different strategies and actions. And then late summer, fall, starting the prioritization. Our goal is to have a draft plan by early November, and then a final plan by December that we can start to put through the cycle of final review. So our goal is to have this completed by the end of the calendar year. And that is all we have, but we are happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Kimberly. I have a quick question. the county's always been enormously proactive with respect to sustainability, especially under Mike Garland's direction with his staff. Where do you think the opportunities might be once you step through? I know this is a bit of guesswork on your part, but in many ways, the county is sophisticated and I think even ahead of the curve in some areas.
Yes, and we often look at it and say, okay, buildings and transportation
Right.
are our two biggest drivers and issues, right? And that's where you've had some really great success, both in your vehicle
Mhm.
fleet and what you've done with the green building policy, which, right, you're right, has been in place for over a decade already. So in many ways, you're ahead of the game. And certainly I'll give Ram an opportunity to chime in too, but looking at maybe some of the smaller efforts, I mentioned like the high efficiency faucets, right? I don't know yet, right? Has the county implemented that at that level aside from your LEED certified buildings? So we still have to get into some of the nuances, but I certainly think with, regards to the wastewater, there might be some opportunities that we can further explore moving forward. And I don't know, Rob, if from your initial look at some of the data, if anything has jumped out at you right from the start?
To be honest, everything is on the table at this point as to what can be done. Now, the programs that are in place already will be reflected in the ongoing forecasting that we're doing from the 2019 baseline. So we will be in some ways, and I would assume when you're developing your goals, you'll also be acknowledging that you're starting from a later baseline than the overall goals. But it's a lot of more of the same. So continual electrification and lower emission vehicles put into the fleet. Things like completing your, the LED replacement of streetlights and traffic signals. Waste management, there may be opportunities there as well. You're already doing methane capture, which is the big one. So if there's opportunities to reduce waste or things like that, that may be one of the goals. And I think that, and of course, where you're buying your electricity, but you are already moving towards 100% renewal on that anyways. We will reflect that in our forecast in the future years to make sure you're meeting your goals. That's kind of the high level at this point. We're waiting to see what data we get in and have a better sense for the handles you have available to turn and the opportunities you have to actually make substantive change. These are all things that you can probably have defined already. We just have to sort of shoehorn it into the protocol. Again, we're using the protocol to just be consistent with other regions so that your forecasts and improvements are equivalent to what other places are showing as well. Because early on, there was a lot of apples and oranges comparisons out there when it came to greenhouse gases. And that's why ICLEI and other agencies have sort of moved forward with the protocol that they have. So partially it'll be a result of the protocol and reflecting what you've already done and the cumulative benefit of a lot of small changes probably going forward.
So can I ask a couple questions?
Good deal.
Sure.
Questions, okay. For one thing, climate change needs a lot more than some little changes, okay? And the county is a long way from reaching the CLCPA mandates, which will be, net zero by 2050. So I find it curious that we're going to compare, use what other regions are doing as what we want to achieve when we have a mandate that's more significant than that. So maybe someone could explain that decision to me. And then the second thing I just want to point out is that it's great that Monroe County has LEED certified buildings, but those are not carbon neutral buildings, right? LEED certified is a whole lot of nice things that we've done. It has nothing necessarily to do with reducing energy demands and eliminating emissions. So I certainly hope there's some consideration for geothermal or air source heat pumps and what further can be done with those buildings?
Yep, and so one of the things, and again, we have to talk about this more with the county, but we haven't set the goals yet, right? We could be extremely progressive and say, we want the county operations to be carbon neutral. So reducing GHG by 100% by 2050, right? We could say that. We could say, okay, we're striving to be consistent with New York State. So the goal hasn't been set. So, I don't want to make the presumption by sharing the state's goals that that's necessarily what we're tied into. There's still opportunity and the need to discuss that further and decide how progressive do we want to be in reducing GHG at the county level. With regards to the tool, and Rob can talk about this much more intelligently than I, it's one way to get to the information, and using the same tool as other communities does allow us to at least provide and understand the comparative benefits of having the same protocol and the same systems in place. So it's not necessarily saying we're going to replicate and just strive for what, say, the city of Rochester has in their climate action plan, but it is just a tool to get us ultimately to where we decide for the Monroe County government operations we want to be.
Thanks.
Right, and I'm sorry if I misled you. We are not looking at what other counties are doing per se. Obviously, that will inform what you guys go forward with. But the protocol is just the same calculations and procedures that other places are using, so that there's consistency. You're comparing apples to apples, as I said before. It does not include what those goals should be or what your different programs should be, but gives us a way of calculating in a consistent way what the impact is of the programs. And it's a little bit of, we can do a little bit of back and forth, because as we go, once the tool is set up, you can start doing what if questions with us. What if we did this, or what if our package of benefits is this package versus this package? And we can then analyze them and come up with a reasonable estimate on how close that's getting to your ultimate goal, which is probably going to be set via a process outside of what I'm personally involved in. So I would say set your overall goals, to be higher and less influenced by what we can do initially, but this whole process will let you guys know what you need to do in order to achieve it in a way that everyone else is calculating it. So
yeah, thanks for the clarification. That makes a lot of sense.
Kimberly, if I could just add, this is my first meeting. So I need to do some reading of some previously done work just to get some ideas. But what comes to my mind as far as what could be done are the two areas. One is the stormwater management on the very large parked areas. There are college campuses, shopping centers. Climate change makes a big impact on how much rainwater could be generated in case there was an unusual event. So we're looking at how do we control the water at the source and let it be used for other beneficial uses, planting trees, landscaping, and things like that. We build all these big concrete or blacktop areas, creating a lot of water, but at the same time we could use, and this is especially when you're doing repairs and fixing those things, some things right at the source to let water go into the ground, to let the water be collected, and then plant some trees and greening of it, because one of the things which is going to happen is temperature in June, July will get higher and higher in future. So how do we control that outdoor environment next to big buildings and sites? Those are the things to think about. The other area is a new law about food waste from facilities not going to landfill. And all the towns in the county, they could use some guidance. How do we collect and recycle, reuse, and especially make products that have higher value? So we could be looking at some new areas that are worth looking into as guidance and practicing it. One of the things every grant application stuff in future might have what have you done to help the low to medium income communities, the affordable housing? How have you improved these brownfield areas? So county could look at how can we conserve and save some funds and address some of these things, because you do have a lot of power to direct your investments and actions in future.
Thank you.
Good deal. Any other thoughts, questions? Seems to me, based on what's been said so far, that certainly there'll be incremental opportunities ahead of us. But to Sue's point, we may find that there could be an order of magnitude opportunity staring us in the face that we're not aware of right now. And that's what I'm hoping. But again, the data will tell us. We'll see.
Yeah.
Good deal. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, thoughts? I really appreciate. Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, just a point of clarification when we talked, when Sue asked that question about goal setting, on the timeline, it had the potential goal setting for June. I just would hope that this entire committee can have a conversation and be part of the decision making with the internal team of setting those goals. I'm imagining that that's the case, and I am imagining that then we have to have conversations with not only Mike and the executive, but making sure that we have buy-in there and bringing that back at some point to the legislature. So just wanted to make sure that that was part of the plan for June. And if anyone can provide further clarification, be helpful.
Joe, I don't know if you want to take that one.
Well,
That one.
yeah, I thought it was more of a statement than a question, but I didn't see that it was June, because we're just finishing the data collection, or I should say the first round of data collection is happening, the end of May. So there's a lot of, so we're not going to be in goal setting before that anyways. So, and
Okay, so when on your chart it says GHG reduction goals, June 2021, that probably needs to be updated then.
what's
And,
that?
Joe, maybe you and I can chat about that more, about the timeline, but we were thinking that that was a discussion we could start having parallel to the baseline inventory being created, right? Because the goals in some way are what we're striving for at the end of the day. The baseline inventory is where we are, and then everything that happens, say, post-June, is filling in that gap in between the two of them. So we kind of need to set those two targets at around this time, right, in the next couple of months, so we understand what we need to do to fill the gap between the two of them.
And I think that this committee would benefit from understanding what that goal setting looks like. So maybe, we can have a conversation about, providing this team with what that looks like.
Well, I envisioned we need your we're looking forward to your input and in this. So we definitely wouldn't be doing any goals without having conversations with you guys.
Of course, and recognizing that it's streamlined in having the kind of the executive group have that initial conversation and bring that back to us makes sense as well. I just want to make sure that that wasn't lost in terms of bringing it back here. So thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
I do think the schedule is aggressive, but go for it. That's my feeling. And I agree, Kimberly, a lot of this can be done in parallel. You can set the goals somewhat independently of the baseline, but eventually we'll have to merge the two and address the gap and see what's realistic and what's not, what's affordable and what's not. But I'm glad we've got a schedule. I'm glad the schedule is aggressive. Do we have any other thoughts, comments? No doubt, Kimberly, we'll have you back again with your team. Joe, of course. You're more than welcome to stay on as we finish the meeting, but if you need to depart, feel free to do so. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Appreciate everything. Good. We'll see you again shortly.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye now.
See you, Ron.
All right.
Hi, Ram. Oh, geez, I was gonna bug Ram. It's all right.
No, I'm still here.
Well,
Go ahead, Kate. Haven't lost them yet.
I wanted to say thank you for making the food waste comment because it's a great segue. You know, I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Good deal. All right, as I said, next up, we have a treat. Kate is going to talk to us about what's happening at the New York State Center for Sustainable Materials Management, which is an exciting endeavor for her. So Kate, thanks,
Yeah.
you're on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. Hold on. Let's see if I can. It always works differently here. Let's see.
We can see you.
All
Okay,
right. Let's see. Hopefully this is
so
the
far
right
so
one.
good. All right,
All right. You see my screen yet?
yes, I know I do.
Awesome. All right. So thank you for giving me a little time here today. I appreciate being able to share a little bit about the newly established New York State Center for Sustainable Materials Management. Let me just double check that. Are you seeing the
Yeah, we can see your screen. You can do right from the beginning. There you go. That's
There
fine.
we Awesome. Great. There we go. So, yeah, so I know some of you are aware and we're part of kind of the development of this, but I really appreciate the opportunity. Also, I get to pilot some of my new presentation skills because I started on March 1. So it's a very new endeavor for me. But I really, this opportunity has been long coming, and certainly at SUNY ESF, I moved, here's my agenda really quick. I'm going to talk a little bit about the center. We also have some DEC partners I want to talk about, how potentially the climate group here could work with us, and then I'll have some time for questions. But so the New York State Center for Sustainable Materials Management was established in 2020. It actually began in 2019 with conversations that happened across the state with the Department of Environmental Conservation, recognizing one, that they would probably not meet all of their zero waste guidelines that came out in their 2010 report, but also recognizing the 2018 recycling market crash and everything that happened with National Sword. And I'll just pause right here and making sure that we acknowledge the incredible job that our team leader, Mike Garland, and Tina did on Evan Dawson talking about recycling. And part of this is really incredible in that we have all of the experience in Monroe County to kind of lean in and on. And so just wanted to make sure as I'm talking about recycling that we gave them a shout out. I know we had provided.
Thank you. Thanks, Kate.
Definitely so.
Yes.
We have
Of
stars
course.
in our midst.
So I don't have to tell many people on this call, certainly Mike and Tina are very well versed in the challenges here, and I had not been living and breathing recycling at all. But it really, I do want to bring that into the storytelling because DEC was quite proactive in recognizing that they needed to do something different. And if you listen to the call, recognizing that even now, even in an organization, even with Monroe County that does so much in terms of education and outreach, there's still so much confusion when it comes to recycling. And so the DEC held stakeholder meetings. There were many stakeholder meetings across New York State to collect information about what the challenges were from a very diverse group of stakeholders. So they met with, of course, recycling coordinators and people like Mike Garland, but also industry specialists and a lot of others. And what emerged from those meetings was
Yeah, of course. Fine, thank you.
a lot of things that they already knew, which was one, recycling,
No, I'm just listening.
but
to
also that markets
I'm
were,
quiet so I
we
can-
saw for
do more.
recycling were very challenged, and we needed to expand those markets. That recycling rates had remained pretty flat for the last 20 to 30 years in New York State, and that we needed to do something different. So these conversations happened at the state, and at that time at SUNY ESF, my boss, Mark Lichtenstein, who has been working in sustainable materials management nationally and locally for many years, was starting to have conversations about how to address this. And recognizing that, as you can see in front of my screen here, that we needed to address the recycling, we really needed to look at the downstream issues, but without looking at upstream and looking at the sustainable waste hierarchy in terms of source reduction and reuse and prioritizing waste reduction, we weren't going to get very far. So the DEC recognized they couldn't do this alone. They put funding together for a $5.75 million grant that would go through SUNY ESF and with a 5-year contract with an extension for another 5 years. This money comes through the Environmental Protection Fund. And many of you might be familiar of me talking about this model because it's the same model from my former employer when I was at the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute at RIT. It's a very similar model in providing funding through an academic institution to provide third-party research that could benefit potential policy, work with industry partners, provide technical assistance. And it's a really successful model for the state. What's a little different here, and what's nice for SUNY ESF, that this is an MOU, and the contract is a little bit different. So we don't have to be worried every single year that funding could potentially go away, where P2I is in a little bit of a different spot, and that sometimes if things get tight, the money could go away. So just wanted to share that here. Additionally, with this investment came additional investment. So we are not the only ones that got funding. We have a sub award with SU out of our 5.7, but we also DEC funded the University of Buffalo, Alfred University, and SUNY Stony Brook, and I'll talk a little bit about them later in the presentation. But all said and done, we are in terms of sustainable materials management, and the center have $14 million of funding to work with in the next 5 years. I want to make a point, and I was gonna joke with the whole crew on here, but I do want to, in terms of this committee, recognize that while of course reducing and looking at energy and transportation is super important, we recognize that materials, and from a 2020 study, 40% of climate impact comes specifically from materials and food consumed. So we're not going to leave waste out of our plan, folks. I'm going to be the person that keeps talking to you about waste. If you look at the CLCPA legislation that happened, they almost forgot to have a waste committee and sustainable materials management subcommittee to advise policy. So I'm not going to let us forget it. So here are some quick key priorities for the center. They're divided into 6 tasks, and you can see them right here on your slide. I'm going to dive into them next, so I won't spend too much time on this one, but I do want to note those 2, developing compost and developing conversion, are 2 research projects that are happening at SUNY ESF and were already occurring. So this funding is going to launch and kind of expand the current research that was happening in-house at SUNY ESF. The 4 other tasks are the 4 tasks that I'm tasked with. So those are the things that will fall under my responsibility moving forward as the project director. So first, there's a lot of text on this slide. I'm sorry, it just happened that way. You guys can read it. I'll pretty this up at some point. But the first piece is really what we're talking about with that top of the hierarchy, the upstream solutions, and looking at waste reduction. And part of this, of course, is to connect the research that's already going on across the state in terms of waste reduction solutions. The state really sees, and DEC has utilized academic support, like I referenced with P2I, to provide third-party data when they're putting together legislation. So as you know or may not know, SUNY ESF, the Environmental Science and Forestry School, has an expertise for decades, centuries of working with forestry and paper and pulp research is something that we do really, really well. So one of the things that they knew would be coming is a paper and packaging EPR legislation. I think we referenced EPR on another call at some point, but extender producer responsibility is a model, a product stewardship model that puts the responsibility on a producer to think about the cost of disposal. And the idea with legislation like that is that you, hopefully, if it's done well, you have the producer actually potentially redesigning to reduce waste and reduce the cost that consumers normally end up paying for. So the idea for this task is really that we're going to provide support for research and provide ideas on how to approach EPR and to provide support for the many organizations that are already kind of doing this work. The other piece is working with DEC on their waste reduction goals and really looking at, and you'll see with our partners, Anyone that's been in this field recognize that the data is still not good on what our waste stream actually is. And Tina and Mike know that waste characterization work is tough as it is, but every county does it a little different. Standardizing that information is very, very difficult, and we're going to be tasked with providing support to the state so not only they can understand what's there, also the next step, of course, is reducing that and creating a goal around that. So we're going to be part of that conversation and moving that along. The other part that I'm most excited about, I shouldn't say most, I'm clearly excited about all of it, but is working on the potential solution. So looking at product packaging, we know already from working with municipalities and counties and folks in the industry, we know what pose some significant challenges in terms of recycling and end of life, but we want to make sure that we understand what products those are and identify potential solutions that are there. Again, that last piece is really looking at how do we support increased use of recycled content, expand those markets, and have more companies actually utilizing and bringing in that material so that we can reduce waste. So the second piece of the task list is one I'm also very excited about, and this is definitely applicable to Monroe County as we look at green purchasing, as we look at trying to reduce waste in our operations. We're going to be providing a lot of technical support in utilizing what is already a pretty good database in terms of developing, the state has, right, as you can see in this slide, the Green New York State Purchasing and Operations web portal. What it has is a list, an incredible database of specs. What it doesn't do is take those specs and actually provide support to municipalities that are actually attempting to purchase and find products and find vendors, which, as all of you know, can be very complicated. And especially when you want to prioritize not only green sustainable options, but MWBE and a lot of other complicated things. So we're going to provide a lot of support to the state, not only on enhancing that web portal, but we're starting a pilot right at SUNY ESF to think about how SUNY schools are purchasing and then provide support to municipalities as well moving forward. Task 3 is the one that keeps me up at night because I am not an economist. So if any of you know any really smart environmental economists, please send them my way because I am in need of them. I'm finding some at SU, but it's really that economic market development. We're really lucky locally to have some great contacts and people like Vinny Esposito that knows what to do and how to do it. But we have some great state folks that we're working with as well. But it's really thinking about expanding markets, right? And we want to provide incentives, just like energy incentives for industry. We should have the same type of incentives for folks that are reducing waste and have zero waste goals. And we just don't have those type of opportunities in the state right now. So we're trying to balance expanding those markets, providing incentives and grants related to waste reduction, while also making sure that we keep businesses here. So it's a fine balance, but we certainly want to train local economic development folks on the benefits of reducing waste, and then provide policy support as we need to. The task 4 is where I'm most comfortable, and what I've been doing most of my career is sharing messages and providing education across the state. But I'm actually not doing most of this work for the center. We have a subaward, as I mentioned, with Syracuse University and their Center for Communities, their Center for Sustainable Community Solutions. I'll get it right one of these days. To provide support in how we message all of the goals and all of the work that we're doing. And they do an incredible job. I know Mike has worked with Melissa Young, their team leader, before, and we actually are leaning on Monroe County, and this is another thank you to them for providing us, meaning the center. We were able to Monroe County shared all of the images from their work that we could utilize for our campaign moving forward. So we're very thankful to Tina and team and Mike for letting us borrow them. But the big exciting announcement for our team was on Earth Day. We launched the Recycle Right New York campaign. And this is really that goal of making sure that we standardize recycling messages. You can go to that. It's live now. And you will be able to search per county. So in this case, it will send you right back to Monroe County's incredible resources and everything that we've done here. But the idea is that it's standardizing the approach to recycling. It's really going to provide resources. In Monroe County, we've had a lot of great resources that are happening, but there's rural communities that do not have funding, do not have teams, do not have the energy to put these resources together. So we're giving out resources, we're providing fact sheets, things like that, and we will continue to do so monthly under the center. Really briefly, as I mentioned, we have these two other large projects. Each one of them were funded for $1 million that are complete research. And so the first one is really enhancing and doing research around efficient composting, and specifically items that are non-recyclable that are fibrous, meaning that at the end of recycling cardboard, which you can recycle cardboard very efficiently, as many of you know, 8 to 9 times. At the end of that process, there's basically a hard pellet that's very fibrous, and it goes almost always to landfill. We can utilize this. One, we could potentially compost it. And our team member, Doug Daly, is looking at composting this. He's also looking at composting more difficult items, things like waxed paper, things that magazines potentially, and is looking at how to do this efficiently. We're going to have a demonstration project that will be happening probably in the North Country, and actually one maybe potentially with our old friends, our partners down in Ulster County as well. And who knows, maybe we'll have one in Monroe County, a demonstration project soon. I think, Mike Garland, you know Doug Daly too. I won't pause here, but I think he has connected it with you at some point in your career. So finally, task six is conversion. This is the one that makes me, I can't believe how smart people are. It's incredible. As you may know, bioplastics are not something that are easily, you would think bioplastic, it's compostable. I pay 4 times as much for this bioplastic. Nope, only if it's in specific condition. And not only that, bioplastics are typically made with virgin material, which, as we know as climate experts now, is not necessarily energy efficient, or does it reduce greenhouse gas emissions, or is it good for the climate? So what we are looking at is actually replacing the material, the vegetable oil or the other material that goes into a bioplastic, and we're using that non-recyclable fibrous material to make a bioplastic, one that would be cheaper because you're utilizing waste, 2 that would be better for the planet because you're not using as much energy, but also one that is more biodegradable and can biodegrade in many different environments. So really excited. Dr. Ram, his name is Bandaru Ramaro, is the lead on this project, and is incredible work that he is doing at ESF. So I know I've taken a little bit more time than I wanted, but I just wanted to put up there, those are our partners. I won't go through all of I'll just flip through them really quick. Tina can send you the slides if you want to know specifically what each one of the other universities is doing. I did include 3 slides, so you can look there. But also you'll see P2I will be working with them on glass and also their food waste, as they are really the experts in the state on food waste diversion. They will be the lead there. So I'll just show you real quick. Those are the 3 slides of all the listed projects that they have. And finally, this is kind of where I'll pause and we can have questions if anyone has them. But you know, thinking about how to partner with the center, obviously we're going to be reaching out to specific stakeholder groups. There's already a stakeholder group that has advised the Recycling Right campaign. I don't know if Tina or Mike was on that, but one of them or both of them advised our team, and we'll continue to reach out to those specific stakeholders and work with them on providing additional resources. And then, you know, as I said, we'll provide materials, but we are getting to a place where we will also provide technical assistance to get businesses, municipalities, and universities zero waste consulting work if they need it. So we're really excited. I'm clearly elated at the role, and I'm really excited to be able to share this with you guys today. So I'll leave it at that. I have a question slide, and then you guys know my contact stuff there, but does anybody have any? And I'll stop sharing here. Anyone have any questions for me?
Kate, given your expertise and passion, I think you found a perfect home in the center for the next 5+ years. So I couldn't be happier for you. I
Thank
did have
you.
one quick question.
Yeah.
There seem to be a lot of players in this space. In
Mhm.
terms of the center's value proposition, how do you distinguish the center from, say, what's happening at your former employer, P
Yeah.
Squared I, and what
Yeah.
else is happening at RIT and remanufacturing? Sometimes perhaps having a roadmap of all the players and how they overlap, sort of a three-dimensional
that's
Venn
actually-
diagram might be worthwhile, because it's just like workforce and poverty reduction. Everybody has a role, but sometimes you don't know who's doing what for whom and when, and there could be some overlap. So
Yeah,
wondering
there's
if
a
just
ton
share
of
your
overlap.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of overlap. And so pollution prevention, started 12 years ago. And the idea really was upstream again. Like they were never in the waste. They were
Mhm.
never supposed to be. And food waste wasn't supposed to be and wasn't for years, but it was the state didn't know who else to bring that to.
Mhm.
So they will keep that. But really P2I and the center are very similar models and are going to be leveraged and sharing a lot. But when it comes to materials management, where pollution prevention is, energy, they do toxic reduction. Again, it's different. But the center and the DEC has really seen the charge of the center is to make sure that all of those universities and all of those resources that we're talking to one another. So part of the plan, so I'm glad you asked the question, is literally making a roadmap and having a public facing document that says, one that's sent to industry, one that's sent to municipalities, and it says, if you have a question about blah, 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 here is who you call. So that awesome question, because that's like one of the first goals for me is, and of course the first step is understanding what all of these universities are actually up to. So
Right. And
but
given
that
your
waste
role,
characterization piece is huge. That has been a challenge for the state for many, many years. So we're really excited to be able to be part of that.
what are your next, say, 6 months like? What is your major thrust at
Not
this point?
sleeping.
Besides everything?
No, I mean,
you
my
should
first
just
6
exclude
months
what
is
you're
really-
not doing.
Yeah. So the benefit of, and a reason why I got in, obviously was hired, was that many of these partners and players, both at DEC, but also the industry partners and the municipality partners, were people that I had worked with or connected with before. But but because I'm now being so specialized, there's a ton of people that the next couple 2 to 3 months is really just about finding out who else is out in this space and who can provide technical support. So it's literally hiring staff. So I have one student right now, and I'll be hiring at least one technical, we'll have at least 1 to 2 engineers, and we need additional PhD students and other students to join our team. So hiring is the first priority. Continue to support the outreach and education messaging for Recycle Right New York is also the second priority, but that third priority is exactly what you said, Matthew, which is getting to know our university partners and the researchers, and literally making an internal roadmap first.
Yeah, good. I think that makes a lot of sense. That'd be enormously helpful to all of us out here.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a lot of
Great
activity.
question.
Fabulous.
Yep.
So
Anyone
I
else?
would like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
hi.
ahead, Jeff.
That's okay. So I used to be the recycling or risk person for Region 8. So when I was at DEC, so I had a lot of
I couldn't forget you. Come on now. Are you saying that for everyone else's benefit? Sorry.
No, yes. So my experience with the counties, especially in the southern tier, is that it's very difficult for them to find the funding to have a person dedicated. So
Yes.
what informally they do is that they work with the Cornell Cooperative Extension. And that's something that you should try to do, to engage
is-
more with them, because in the past, the extension used to receive a lot of funding from the DEC,
Yeah.
but for forestry and stormwater. So I
100%.
think they would be more, now they can be more willing to get engaged in issues of recycling.
Yes, yes. If you happen to have come across, I know many on this call have, Michelle Gluck from downstate, from the Cornell Cooperative Extension. We're actually bringing her into the fold right away to start, utilizing those resources. And to your point, figuring out the funding, not only directly to municipalities, but to internally to DEC as well, and thinking about what other resources are needed. The other, when I noted about ESD, the interesting thing for someone that hasn't been in, I'm kind of old, but I haven't been around forever. The office, there was an office, and some of you on this call might remember, there was an office for recycling market development. Mike Garland, do you remember office? I think some people may have, but there was a whole team at ESD. There was 8 staff people, and Jim Gilbert, who some people might have known, was part of that team, and they provided funding, and both for infrastructure for recycling, but they provided technical support. They provided grant support to communities like P2I kind of does now, but it was specific to recycling and waste reduction education. That went completely away when recycling went to single stream. So the conversations that we're having with the state DEC and ESD is, how do we re-engage some version of that? And I'm trying to track, if anyone can get a hold of Mike Gilbert, by the way, let me know, because I'm trying to track him down to get some historic knowledge. But to your point, we need to have more resources directly to the folks on the ground. Any other questions?
Kate, I just wanted to make a comment, kind of following up on what Matt said. Matt and I have talked quite a bit in the past year, and I think I've talked about this with Mike Garland as well, about all the different things that are going on in this arena and how hard it is to keep track of them, but at the same time recognizing that's a good thing. That there is so much going on in the region. And one of the things, from my perspective as elected official trying to bring services to people, is thinking that when we get to phase 2 of our process, that might be one of the things we're really spending some time on, where we as the committee figure out how for the county to be really kind of like a clearinghouse, a resource, whatever, that people could, when they say, how do I do whatever, they come to the Climate Action Plan Committee's, website and or make a call and be able to get that information.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best advice is always, right, like, has someone else, and this is what we do with research, right? Like, has someone else done this? Always benchmark. Whenever you're going to put a material out, who has done this? Can we steal what they've done and enhance it and make it better for us? And I used to do that in my role at P2I when funding folks, we're not going to fund something that's already been done 30 times. Like, let's not waste our energy there. So yes, a clearinghouse, but if a clearinghouse already exists, right? Like, of course we want the county to be a resource, but do we want to put all of the energy in being the expert on all of the resources? Because then somebody has to manage that too. So I think
it might be just finding out what are the best sites to get that information, and then just providing access to that.
100%.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's where the roadmap and those pieces of, and that's something certainly I can help with, and I know other people are definitely tied into other areas, but we could certainly build something out like that, and I think that should be part of our charge, and something that we provide support to Mike and his team to do that work.
Yeah. Great.
Congratulations, Kate, on your role. You are the perfect person for it, and you're going to take it to great places. So they're lucky to have you.
I'm excited. I'll keep you posted. Thanks for your time.
Please do.
I could just make a quick comment for Kate.
Of course.
One of the areas that may be worth looking into is the regenerative soil. When you grow things, and RIT already is into it with biochar, and there are waste material coming out of growing mushrooms, and there are vermicycle. What we are finding is that if you want to grow plants and tree or food or urban agriculture, creating this, it's called as living soil. So if you type in living soil in your Google search, you'll find that you need to mix the soil and make it closer to the Mother Nature's soil. And that grows the best healthy food or trees. And they are doing it in Europe, creating better soils before you plant a tree. So we need to make sure we can recycle and reuse to then put it back into the nature, sturdy, get better looking or healthier plants, and then people can benefit from it. So just
exactly. Yep. No, thanks for that, Ram. I appreciate it.
And I'm glad, Kate, you've got a student. This is another opportunity to bring folks in the elementary school arena into what you're doing too. Because
So I have an
you have one
ESL
student right now, right?
I have a college student.
College
Yes,
student.
I have a-
Okay.
He's going
That's
to
a
be a
place to start.
junior. But I will say I hired him. There was a couple of applicants. This one already started an organics diversion company like Impact Earth. Like he started that when he was 16 downstate. So he comes with lots of experience. He's very motivated.
I'd say you've
But
got the
yes,
right fellow.
there will be other opportunities for sure.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Kate,
Yeah, thank you.
for sharing your insight and your excitement. And no doubt we'll have you back again in the
Awesome.
next several months or so
Well,
as this matures.
I'm coming back anyway, so.
You're here. So when you feel that there's more to share, by all means, let us know and we'll get you back on the agenda. All right. As far as the public forum is concerned, we did actually receive a copy of a letter that was sent to Adam Bello, and we'll make this available to everybody in the minutes. The county executive did receive not too long ago a letter dated April 28th, 2021 from Carol Hinkleman, whom some of you may know. She is representing the Federation of Monroe County Environmentalists, which I'll call FMCE. Mike and I, in our capacity as co-chairs of this august committee, did receive courtesy copies, and she did salute us for the work we're doing creating the climate action plan. The letter really had no actions for us, but did formally request a meeting with the county executive. And if Adam accepts, my recommendation is that some of us on the committee join them by Zoom or in person, depending on the format. But FMCE has a website. I'd encourage you to go take a look. They're quite active. They have a lot of members, and their scope is actually much broader than ours here on the Climate Action Plan Advisory Committee. But I must say, based on what I saw on the website, Monroe County is already doing a great deal of what the Federation advocates. And that's a real plus and a tribute again to Mike Garland and Tina and the whole staff here too. So we'll share the letter in the minutes to this meeting. Are there any other thoughts before we adjourn? We'll meet again the first Thursday in June, which I think is June 3rd, right? And hopefully by then the weather will be more summer-like, or at least spring-like.
I know, Matt,
Yeah.
about that letter is, I will seek direction from, the administration on how they wish to respond to the Federation. They might defer to me to engage with them and bring a small group together to learn more about what they do. And as you said, you offered, to be express interest in being part of that meeting or have representatives from the advisory committee.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. A great deal of what they advocate we're doing already. So they just wanted to introduce themselves to Adam, being a fairly new county executive, and basically say they're here to support all of our county green initiatives. So,
Matt,
no specific action for us, though.
Yeah,
Michael?
Before we adjourn, we just got some word on the CPACE program, the agenda, and I'll let Fred give us an update on that.
Okay, good. Fred.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Yeah, I just got word from Jack Moffett, the legislative clerk, and it will be on the agenda Tuesday night, as we discussed.
All right.
That's good news. And
yeah.
Excellent.
And we'll proceed then with submitting the letter over to Jack, and he can do with it what he so chooses.
Yeah, you send it, Mike. Yeah, it's just it's good form.
Yeah.
You're not hurting anything, right? Okay.
It's not going to hurt.
Good.
Yeah. And we're all in favor of it, of course. So it should go through smoothly.
Yeah, I agree, Fred. Everything we've done to date has been unanimous. So if we can maintain that track record.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be unanimous in the legislature too.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep our string of 29-0 votes, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. Excellent.
Thanks,
Anything
Fred.
else anyone want to share? All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. Yeah,
Matt.
Go ahead. Yes.
Sorry, Yasmin has something. I'm sorry.
Oh, Yasmin.
Yeah.
All right.
So the stars in this group just put together a video about composting. And see, we have been talking about waste and food waste and the soils and different alternatives. I'm gonna try to share this my screen and see what you can see. It's not a long video. Bear with me.
While she's getting that queued up, I just want to talk about this a little bit. I can't play it from my house because the internet is so bad, but go ahead, Yasmin.
Did you know that Monroe County collects over 20,000 cubic yards of leaves a year from the city of Rochester and 21 county parks? These leaves are then properly composted at one of the county's registered compost facilities. Composting is the natural process of recycling organic material, like leaves and yard waste, into a rich, dark soil amendment coveted by homeowners and gardeners, who often refer to it as black gold. I'm often asked why use compost. Compost helps to prevent erosion, puts valuable organic resources to their highest and best use, increases the ability of soil to retain water, and reduces the need for fertilizers. But please remember, never place yard waste in curbside recycling bins or trash. It contaminates recycling and takes up valuable space in local landfills. Check with your municipality for yard waste collection or drop-off sites. Residents can pick up compost for their homes by bringing containers and a shovel to Eco Park 2 days a week. Hours of operation are Wednesdays from 1 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. and Saturdays from 7:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. No appointment is necessary. Monroe County is happy to provide compost to its residents to help keep our gardens and yards looking vibrant and beautiful.
And we want to thank that very expensive talent that we had in that little spot there for his very professional.
Mike.
I just want to take a second to talk about that. Thanks for doing that, Yasmin. Communications approached us and wanted to put their message out. And this week is International Compost Awareness Week. So we took that opportunity to have Mike make the little video about compost, but there are also 2 more that are going to run over the course of the summer. One is on household hazardous waste and the other is on pharmaceuticals. So keep an eye out. And if you haven't, please, if you're on Facebook, please like the Facebook Eco Park page. That's where these will be. And then communications is going to use it for various other efforts too.
Thank you, Tina.
Thanks, everybody.
Mike,
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
how many takes was that, Mike?
Tina, how many takes was it?
I'm very proud to say it was 1 and a safety. That was it.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a pro. He's a pro.
We're gonna all have to get some autographs pretty soon.
Yeah,
that's right.
right.
Well, I'll be glad to be your agent, Mike, if you need one. Good deal.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks,
right.
folks, for indulging us.
Excellent. I think our next meeting is what, June 3rd, the first Thursday of June. And if there's no other business, let me thank everyone again for their time and effort and interest. And I'll just need a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, thanks. And a second. I'll second the motion. All in favor, aye. Thumbs up, right? Aye. All right, good deal, everybody. Enjoy the month of May. We'll be back in touch and look forward to working with you throughout the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you
everyone.
again, Kate.
Yep.
You bet.
Great.
Appreciate your presentation.
Thanks, Kate.